It was like an invitation to a dinner party nobody was absolutely sure they wanted to be at. The Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn was offering to be host to opposition parties and Tory rebels, to call a vote of no confidence and then lead a temporary government until a general election, all in order to prevent a no deal. The first response this morning came from the Lib Dems.
What I want is a plan that works. And Jeremy Corbyn, I think, in his heart of hearts, knows that he can't command a majority in the House of Commons. He knows it, everyone in this room knows it, the whole country knows it.
Jo Swinson, in fact, suggested two alternative leaders, Ken Clarke or Harriet Harman, the father and mother of the House, to lead a temporary government. Labour immediately hit back.
Jo Swinson does not get to choose who the leader of the Labour Party is. Our leader is Jeremy Corbyn, and she should respect the leader of the Labour Party and respect his title as the official opposition. He's elected democratically to do that. He's got the support of his MPs, and we are the biggest opposition party. She should work with Jeremy Corbyn. This is party political game scoring.
Mr Corbyn's letter does say that he intends to table a vote of no confidence at the earliest opportunity, when we can be confident of success. Parliament is in recess, and with party conference season due to start at the end of September, it's not clear when that vote could be called. There is also a question of the timing. Now, he needs the support of more Tory backbenchers, but they are unlikely to want to reveal themselves at this stage. And then there is the plan itself. Now, in this letter, he says that the caretaker government would be strictly time limited and that he would be seeking an extension to Article 50 so that the deadline beyond October the 31st can be extended. But there are a few other details. So, while the recipients of this letter have broadly welcomed it, there are a few caveats. Plaid Cymru cautiously welcomed the plan but said backing Remain should be Mr Corbyn's first priority. The Green Party said they would back a no-confidence vote, but if he fails, they want another MP to lead a caretaker government. And Dominic Grieve, among the Tory rebels, said he would welcome talks but was cautious about the wisdom of a general election.
My view is quite simple. We should be prepared to work across party lines, and we should be prepared to explore all options to do that. So, you know, Jeremy Corbyn's suggestion today, it's not the only option that we should be looking at, but equally, I don't think we should be taking things off the table at this stage. No deal is going to be a catastrophe if it happens. So those of us who oppose that have a duty really to try to put our differences aside and come together to find a way of averting it.
Unsurprisingly, Downing Street, who sent the Transport Secretary out to respond, was scathing.
Any Conservative MP should think once, twice, three times about the idea of putting Jeremy Corbyn into Downing Street, because it won't just be for a minute. Once he's there, he'll be able to do all sorts of things. He'll wreck the economy, he'll destroy people's jobs, their livelihoods, their savings.
It is likely, though, that the more moderate Tories, at least at this stage, may prefer to give the Prime Minister more time to avoid a no deal.
I will go on arguing what I'm arguing for at the moment, that there is an alternative to the risk that the country is running, probably until October the 29th. I want to see that as the better alternative. I don't want to be put in a position of votes of no confidence or anything like that. I want to see a government, I want to see a Conservative government succeed. I want to see Boris Johnson succeed. I want to see him get the negotiation he's speaking of.
The next step, of course, will be to hold these talks with those who've said they will come to the table. But no date has yet been set.
Well, after her speech this morning, I asked Jo Swinson why she won't back Jeremy Corbyn's proposal.
What I want is practical ways in which we can stop this country crashing out of the EU without a deal on the 31st of October. Now, there's different ways we can do that. Could be passing a law to require an extension of Article 50 for a people's vote. It could be an emergency government after a vote of no confidence in Boris Johnson. But that is not going to work.
Why not?
If the suggestion that Jeremy Corbyn is going to be the Prime Minister, because in order to win a vote of no confidence against Boris Johnson, we actually need some Conservative MPs to vote against a Conservative Prime Minister. And they are much less likely to do that if they think it's going to make Jeremy Corbyn Prime Minister. So let's find...
They're more likely to do it if you say, yes, I'll back this. This is an emergency. He's not going to be able to do anything. He's just going to call a general election and delay Brexit.
To be honest, I don't think that's the case.
Well,
they
has
are
anyone
not
told
going to
you?
do it. Yeah, there's plenty of MPs that have told me that they would not be able to vote for Jeremy Corbyn to be Prime Minister.
I'm asking you about these specific circumstances. This is a new offer. This is not putting Jeremy Corbyn into number 10. This is an emergency government whose sole aim is to call a general election and delay Brexit. Are you saying that you've had that conversation with other members of Parliament and they have said there's no way we will support that?
Definitely it is the case that there are Conservative and Labour MPs who will not put Jeremy Corbyn into number 10, and that the best way of this kind of idea of an emergency government, which I think has some merit, succeeding, is if it is done in a very collaborative cross-party basis where it is being led by somebody who has respect right across the House, who is not perceived as somebody who does ultimately want to be Prime Minister in the longer term. And the people I've suggested have been Harriet Harman and Ken Clarke, the mother and father of the House. There could be other people
Have
who
you
fit that
spoken to
bill.
either of them about this?
I have, and I understand that they have a sense of public duty, and if the House of Commons was to request that they were to lead such an emergency government, that I have confidence that they would be up for that.
They have both
request.
told you they would be prepared to do this.
They are willing to do this, and I think you can certainly ask them what their views are of it. But my understanding,
But that's what they've told you.
That's what my understanding
personally.
is.
I mean, that's remarkable. That if Harriet Harman is saying she is prepared to lead a government over the head of Jeremy Corbyn.
Look, people understand the national crisis that we're in.
Yeah.
And to be honest, Jeremy Corbyn should understand the severity of this situation. And if he is truly saying that he wants to stop a no-deal Brexit, he needs to have a bit of self-awareness about how he is viewed by some people across the House of
But you could
Commons.
change the game by saying, I will back Jeremy Corbyn, and you're refusing to do that.
I'm refusing to back something and to waste my time on a plan that isn't going to work.
You don't know that until you've tried it.
We do. No, because we don't have time to try plans that aren't going to
You
work.
do. You could
No,
say it
we
today
don't.
and see if it's failed by tomorrow.
We don't have time because we're talking about a scenario where we have the 31st of October deadline. If we have a vote of no confidence, there are only 14 days. The risk of us accidentally crashing out with no deal if we don't have our act together is high. And we need to be aware of that risk, and that's why cross-party agreement is important,
But we need
and
to be
why
clear
it
on
needs
this.
to be on realism.
Are you ruling out yourself backing Jeremy Corbyn in Downing Street for an emergency government? Under any circumstances?
he can't-
Other people may
look,
change their
look,
positions. Are
he-
you saying
he cannot-
you will not back that?
It is an absolute waste of energy to be talking about this.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is, because it's not going to
He
work.
is the leader of the opposition.
He is the leader of
He
the
has the most
opposition.
opposition MPs. He's entitled to try this. It's not a waste of time.
In fact, and
I've
he's-
got to
he's-
ask you, are you ruling this out, supporting it?
I cannot see how he can command a majority, and if he is
You're speculating about other people.
If he is setting,
I'm asking you about you.
If he is setting a condition on stopping a no-deal Brexit, that he must be Prime Minister. I mean, my question for Jeremy Corbyn is, why is it that it would have to be you? Why can't you say that an MP from your party or another party that has a long record of service, why couldn't he back them in the knowledge that they are not the divisive figure that he is?
Won't voters say both Jo Swinson and Jeremy Corbyn are playing politics here with their own ambitions?
No.
And they're putting that ahead of stopping no-deal
Hannah,
Brexit. You will both go down in history as the people who argued and no deal happened.
I am making no conditions whatsoever other than we should have a plan that will work
You've just
to
put
stop
one down.
no deal.
Your
No,
condition
it
is no
that-
Jeremy Corbyn.
It's that it will work. That is my condition. It's that it,
It
has
won't
to
work
be a workable
unless you
plan.
support it.
But it won't work if I do support it. It will not work.
But there is a danger that you're going to keep disagreeing. He doesn't blink, you don't blink, no deal happens.
What I'm trying to do is deliver something that works. We've had enough of people putting forward their own egos on this about they have to be Prime Minister. You know, we're in this, boxed into this situation because Boris Johnson said whatever he had to say to win the Conservative Party leadership election because he had to be Prime Minister. He wasn't putting the national interest first. If Jeremy Corbyn says that rescuing our country from no deal has to be all about making him Prime Minister, then, you know, that's not putting the country's interest first.
Are you going to go and talk to him?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're going to say to him, you can't be the Prime Minister.
And, you know, I think he needs to understand it. I would hope he has friends around him that can help him see that. I think, to be honest, in his heart of hearts, he must know this.
Are you sure there isn't another legislative route to stopping no deal? I mean, is it not possible that you could change the law?
Yes.
You know, John Bercow is certainly suggesting that.
Yeah, and so, I mean,
so all of this might be academic.
Well, so in my speech today, I set out that I think legislating to require the government to request an extension to Article 50 for the purpose of holding a people's vote is, I think, probably the best way out of this. So, yeah, I'm not being prescriptive about how this is done. We need clarity among the different groups about the clear options that we can go forward with and the sequencing of how we do that. But we just need to put our party interest at the door. This is about what's best for our country.
Jo Swinson, thank you very much. Well, a short while ago, I spoke to Labour's Tony Lloyd, the shadow Northern Ireland secretary, and I put it to him that the consensus choice for a possible caretaker Prime Minister isn't Jeremy Corbyn.
This is, as you describe, a caretaker prime ministerial role. It's an argument that at the moment is mainly being made, I think, by Jo Swinson. We don't have time to discuss personalities. I honestly do hope that Jo Swinson will recognise that we're pretty much in the same objective.
She has suggested Harriet Harman, and she says Harriet Harman has agreed.
That could be true of almost anybody, couldn't it? That there would be disagreements. So we've got to move forward. Convention in a parliamentary democracy is bound to be that the leader of the biggest opposition bloc takes the opportunity to try to form that government.
Are you ruling out backing anybody else?
Look, today the situation is this. Jeremy Corbyn has put forward a proposal.
No, I know, but I mean, you must have discussed it as a shadow cabinet. Did you decide as a shadow cabinet that this is the only option?
I think it's a very credible option. The leader of the biggest
is it the only
party,
option, or could there be others?
Leader of the biggest opposition party is bound to be the obvious choice to lead that. But look, this isn't about party political advantage. A short-lived government like this...
Well, if it's not about party political advantage, then you should be able to say there are other options that we're prepared to talk about.
That may take a long time to effect. But, Krishna, you know, the reality simply is this, is that every party who is part of the process of stopping that no-deal Brexit will campaign on the basis that they stop that no-deal Brexit. We can't afford to have that no-deal Brexit. We've got to move quickly. Jeremy Corbyn has made an offer which other parties, other individuals are talking seriously about. Guito Bebb, a Conservative backbencher, is said that he's prepared to consider it. The SNP, Plaid Cymru, the Green Party are looking at the proposal. Let's get down to the serious conversations about how we move this forward.
Is that the only option you're prepared to discuss?
It's the option that's on the table, isn't it? And that's the one that's being discussed credibly.
This is much more serious than that. I'm asking you, are you prepared to talk about other options?
The country has not got time to wallow in personalities. We've got now to cut to the quick. We've got to get to the motion of no confidence. We've got to make sure we stop a no-deal Brexit. We've got to make sure on the back of that...
Well, what's wrong with Harriet Harman?
Harriet Harman is a very good friend of mine, a woman I've worked with over the years.
Well, apparently, according to the Liberal Democrats, she has agreed to do this, if needed.
But the Liberal Democrats...
Why wouldn't you support that?
The Liberal Democrats don't choose the leader of the Labour Party. I hope the Lib Dems will
it's not about the leader of the Labour Party, it's about an emergency Prime Minister.
Christian, you're absolutely right. And it's not about a personality.
But there's another proposal that has been raised today by the Liberal Democrats, and I'm asking you, why don't you support that?
It's a proposal that is being seriously considered by other political parties. To try to build a consensus that can stop Brexit. Now, of course, we can wallow in personalities.
No, I'm not wallowing in personalities. I'm asking you, what is wrong with the proposal that has been put to you by the leader of the Liberal Democrats? To have a Labour Prime Minister, but for it to be Harriet Harman.
Jeremy Corbyn is the leader of the Labour Party. Jeremy Corbyn has put a particular offer on the table, which has been actively and seriously considered by other opposition parties. That's the starting point that we're in. Do you know, there's nothing that Labour is proposing that actually the Lib Dems would disagree with. They would want to move to a second referendum. They would want, as part of that, to stop the
They disagree with the
Brexit.
personality. That is the point.
But we can't be hung up on personalities.
Because people in favour of Brexit say this is fundamentally anti-democratic.
The referendum, and Philip Hammond made this point very eloquently this week, was never about a no-deal hard Brexit with all the damage it would do. That wasn't Boris Johnson's proposal, it wasn't Michael Gove's proposal, if they were the joint leaders of the Leave campaign. No question.
So why are you opposing a referendum before the election?
Because in the end, a referendum would take some time. We need to be able to deliver a referendum. We need a parliament that can guarantee to deliver that. We need a parliament, actually, and it comes back to a point you made before, a parliament that can begin to resolve the other issues that we face.
Labour's Tony Lloyd.